Okay. So while we wait, uh, hi Chinelo, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm very well. I'm very,
How's
very
your day
well.
been? How's your day been?
Fine, thank you. Busy and it's hot out here. I don't know how it is in your end, on your end, but here it's pretty hot and no light.
I have an AC on and I have this pointed directly in front of
Wow.
my face. That's how hot
Uh,
it is.
you can see
It's
me
hot, hot,
sweating,
hot.
even though I prepped myself.
No,
Well,
I know.
yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a global weather thing that has finally hit us in this part of the world. When they say global warming, we keep saying, it's one of those things, but I think it has finally hit us full time. I mean, this is March when we're supposed to be enjoying in fact, the last of the first rains, and we're still sweating and dabbing ourselves. Okay, so we're going to give ourselves about 3 minutes and let's see how many of our people can, join us here. Okay, so guys, while we wait, I will talk about the book again. That's, you know, bears the same title as this show. Today, we're going to be here talking about the challenges of how to say yes, with love, or rather, how to say yes with strength and no with love, right? If you have this book, you're not going to see that topic here. Why? Because once in a while we switch things up in this house and we do something different. We allow speakers to choose their topic. And today, our speaker has graciously decided that today she's going to share with us her wealth of experience, right? And teach us how to say yes firmly and how to say nope, but with love. I'm sure if you're a parent, experience that dilemma where you want to tell your child no, but you really don't want them to feel like, you know, you want it to be a firm no, but you really don't want it to be like you're just no, you know? And so today we're going to discuss ways you're going to tell your children no, and they will still walk away from you feeling loved. They won't feel like mommy mommy doesn't like me, daddy hates me. And that's something that is very important. When I was my dad still says it, but not as frequently. When I was younger, my dad used to say that a diplomat is someone who can tell you to go to hell and you will gladly follow that. The thing I experienced with parenting is that sometimes you need to be a bit diplomatic, not because you are trying to convince anybody, but hey, love. I mean, we don't say everything we want to say to our children, our friends. Just you look at the individual, you consider the situation, and then you proceed with love. And so, welcome. I am Therapy's Food. Nice to have you here this evening. Right? I see we are beginning to all creep in gradually. Thank you for coming. We're giving everyone another minute or two so that they can join us here. I know that the transition from my page to this page is going to be a rough one because most people are used to seeing lives on my personal page. But hey, we want to be able to let people realize that this page also exists. So I am Therapy's Foods. Could you go tell a friend to get in here and send them the link? I know it's a mouthful, but hey, if you say it right, Godly Parenting Summit. Once you get it. So while I'm speaking, I don't want to introduce our guest yet because I want more people to know the amazing, awesome person that is me. And then while that is happening, then we will introduce her and she will begin to speak. In the meantime, let me take 1 minute I'll be here with you, but I'll just be silent. Our guest today is a veteran parent. She has 5 children, and they are ranging from their 20s to their teens. So she's been there, done that. She has boys, she has girls, and she's also an educator. She's an administrator. She's also the founder of. In fact, whenever I see the name of this group, my heart sings because it just says it all. It's called Ozuzuamaka. Now, if you're Igbo, you will realize that it means home training is good. That's the literal meaning, but it embodies so much. Like it talks about going back to our roots. It talks about how things should be done, not necessarily following the trends, but keeping the values and still elevating those values despite the times. And without much further ado, I'm going to bring our guest. Her name is Mrs. Chinelo Ujubuonu. Welcome, Chinelo. Thank you.
Thank you, Ify. I'd like to make some corrections there in the introduction. I actually have 6 biological children. Don't mind the adopted ones I have. And then out of the 6, 5 are boys. I just have 1 girl. So that's why I never talk things about a girl. But my daughter has shown me a world of difference when it comes to how the boys think and how the girls think. I'm sure you can relate because yours is balanced, 2 boys, 2 girls. So that's it. And I'm sure you can see a world of difference between these beautiful children. And that makes it quite unique, So without wasting your time, thank you for the introduction. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your wonderful, wonderful program, Parenting with the Father. And when I was thinking about what topic I should do, something happened. I thought I was going to, and I just was somewhere, and I noticed how the mother was struggling in maintaining her grounds on the no she has told her children in the mall. And I was, that's the topic. So I reached out to you. I gave you my own topic, but you, in your own very finesse way, recoined it. Well, no, what? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. I like the fact that they tightrope, knowing when to say yes and when to saying yes with a purpose, saying no with a love. I think that drove it in, and I said, let's run with it. So it's nothing that we don't know already. We already know how our parents said yes and no to us. But the only difference I'm bringing to the table is we are parenting intentionally now. Because the way we were parented is quite different from the way we should be parenting now in the 21st century. Not because parenting styles have changed, but now our children are light ways ahead of us. That is the only difference. Not because the kids, God created our children differently and us differently. No. Parenting still remains parenting. But the issue now is that our children are way, way, way ahead of us. And in order to maintain that pace with them, we need to understand their own world. We need to get into that world and then begin to explore their world and see what you can bring in from your world to theirs. Because if you dish everything your parents have, the styles your parents use in parenting you definitely mix the mark. I have 6 children, like I said. All the 6 children are distinctly different, uniquely different. Above all, they are just wonderful. There's some who have mixed the mark. There's some who are on track. There's some who just don't want to conform. despite everything. I begin to go back to your drawing table to say, where did I go wrong? What did I do differently? And you come back and see. And sometimes, because in today's parenting, we do not want to dialogue because our parents never dialogued with us. So when you tell parents that they need to dialogue with them, and they're like, are you for real? My own child? But that is it, because that's where they are. So like if he has
So
introduced, okay,
let me
yes, go on.
pause. Let me just pause for a minute because I want to do a little bit of recap. In this few minutes, you have packed a lot. But what I hear very loud and clear is that our children, right? It's not that God created them uniquely or differently. I mean, He created us all with our what we call universal design and then unique design. So everybody is the same in one way or the other. But of course, He gave each of us, different flavor, unique to whatever His purpose is. Now, the difference, the key thing you're saying here now is that our children, probably because of the times they are born in, are exposed to a lot, and so they have a lot of information already. I mean, and so therefore you can't just wake up and do what you want to do. They will hold you accountable, they will call you out. And therefore, parents now need to adapt their ways to things that are, by the way, alien to them, because if you were not raised with dialogue, then it means you're going to have to learn to dialogue. In fact, you're going to first of all learn to accept that dialoguing is something to do with your children. Then learn how to do it. Then learn how to now do it in the way that will work for each child, because each child's dialogue is different. I know the children that once I just say 3-4 sentences, they are good. Let's not stress this matter. I know the ones that before I even say the first sentence, I probably have to say preamble. We give them what we call the compliment sandwich. You're a beautiful girl, a beautiful child, and you now say what you want to say, then you now say, but I love you all the time, so that they start off feeling loved. You hit them with the bass boost, then they end up feeling loved. How does a parent know how to do this and when to do this? Because it's not every scenario that you want to kind of water down. There are some scenarios where the children need to know that this is serious, and there are some scenarios where you can just let it slide. So, tell me, what do you think? How would parents be able to discern how to react with each child and what scenarios?
You know, there's something I call limit your nose. You just have to learn to limit your nose. It's sometimes when we talk about emotional intelligence, it should start with us parents. I learned the hard way. While I was parenting, we didn't have some of these things, and that's where I went into Ozamaka. I started it way back in early 2000. And then, of course, when the varieties of life come, you drop a project. But with you, Ify, I'm trying to resuscitate it and see if I can hit the ground running and bring it back to life. Background where I hardly ever got hugs. Yes, I'm just being plain. I hardly ever got hugs. But there's something that I learned from my auntie. Surprisingly, my mom's elder sister lived with us for most better part of her life. And she was the sort of mother we saw. She could be hard and at the same time very, very soft. She was a typical example of the carrot and the stick. 1 minute she's scolding you, the next minute you're with her and she's busy picking out the dry fish for the soup and she's picking out the chunky ones and putting inside. This is a woman who have scolded you and probably flogged you, and she's doing all that. So at a point, growing up, we all hated her. We never liked her. We all said things like, no wonder she's not married, who will ever marry such a wicked person, and so on and so forth. My father never scolded, he never flogged, but he wasn't that lovable. It wasn't somebody that will come, gives you a hug and all that. And till date, we're the ones who hug him because he's 84. So we go hugging him, and he finds it a bit strange because he knew, or rather he knows, he never hugged us while growing up. So to start on learning the way I was brought up in order to parent. My husband came from a family where there was so much love. There could be hugs and all that. And the first few years of our marriage was quite difficult because I wasn't the hugging type. I wasn't the person that would show affection, in public, and he was expert in that, so I was quite embarrassed. Why is this thing is meant to be private? Why is he doing this? But so coming back to your question, like I said, I have to give this background because I'm sure some of us here may or may not have such backgrounds. So everything a child comes in, for instance, let me give a typical example, which I see with many children these days. You tell a child to stop bouncing on the chair or on the bed and all that, and the child refuses. So because there are two things that parents should tell their children: always obey mom and dad all the way, right away, with a happy heart. And the
I love it.
second,
I love
always
it.
tell the truth. Always tell the truth. So these are two things that, are you obeying me as a mother because you want to obey me, or because you feel that you shouldn't or you're doing the right thing? Because for everything, like if I had started with my intro bill, because I said we're going to have a free flow, the first thing we should understand is to go back, because I'm using your example, go back to the beginning, from the beginning, where Adam disobeyed our Lord. Adam's sin was the sin of irresponsibility. He didn't take responsibility for his action. Rather, he pointed at his wife, Eve. And so did Eve. Eve was the first person. Eve was a person who was a culprit. Because she wasn't there when God created Adam and said, everything here take, except for one. And that was the one no that God gave to Adam. The rest were yeses.
Imagine, and is that one no? Just like children, is that one no? I had a child in her early, I think her first 5 years, just mistakenly say do not or no. That one that you said not, that is her life's mission for that season. So I learned quickly not to say not to her. I'll find a way around saying that sentence without saying not. Because the minute she just hears not, she will be looking at you and she will be looking for ways to get at it. And that's human beings. That which you say no to becomes the mission.
Yes. The thing here is that for every no, there must be a purposeful yes. And that's why when I saw your title, I smiled. Because it looked as though you had read my mind and brought out that purposeful yes. So we need to let the children, what is the purpose of your no that becomes a yes for the child? That's where we should. Sometimes we need to think through our actions. Silence sometimes is the best, and that was what my father used for us. He was a silent person. I will tell you a story. I was a young girl. I just got into the university at that time. So there was this day I was coming back. And my mother had said, once it's 7 o'clock, you must be home, blah, blah, all the rules. And we need to understand that, I don't know the ages of the people we talk here. The younger the children are, the lesser rules you have. As they grow up, you build on those rules and then remove some that do not matter to them anymore. But if we have a catalog of rules, even you as an adult gets confused. You can imagine. And that's why Christ, when he came, he compressed the 10 commandments into 2. It was easier to understand. And that's why we need to begin to look at the rules we're putting out for our children. So it doesn't become a world of no's for them rather than yeses. Our no's have to be a purposeful yes. So like I was giving as an example, this particular day, boys, the way they are, this guy was persistent. We were, those days in Enugu, they didn't have cabs. They had what we call the kabu kabu. And then you enter into this kabu kabu and people will follow you through. I got down on my street. This guy followed me. And as I was walking down the street, because our house was at the end of that street. Then as I was walking down, I saw my father watering his flowers because my father loved nature then. So, and I was like, this boy, please now leave me alone. Because I was wondering what my father was going to say. By the time he chats with his wife, what they're going to say, the kind of scolding I'll get from my mother, all those things were
I know.
yeah. And then as soon as we got to where my father, he greeted my father and said bye-bye to me. Honestly, that made me hate that boy so much. But till today, I must tell you, my father has never asked me who that guy was. So that's the level of trust he had for me. And I hold that dear till tomorrow. Sometimes we may just allow our tempers to fly without even thinking through. And that's why I said sometimes silence could be a good teacher for a child. Even if you know your answer will be a no, but like if he has just said, I know a child who I say no, that's when the person will decide to take an action. You could just say, let me think through this.
That's becoming my favorite sentence these days. I have 2 teenagers, a third one that is going to join them this June, and a 10-year-old. So these days, before I even answer, I'll say, you know what, let me think about it, because I have to think it very well. Though. I might be saying yes on the surface, and then these are our Alpha Gen Z children. They have already thought it 5 steps ahead of you. Like you said, they are far beyond us. And this is not to say that we are not intelligent. It's just that they have a lot of information packed and sent their way from very early ages. So their analytical minds can match an average adult. Of course, they are young. They are still not functioning with their full mental capacities. But even the one that is not even 100%, they are, moving at a fast pace. So these days, I find myself saying, you know what, let me think about it. Then when I've thought it through, sometimes I will even Google it. Yes, so mommy Googles very well. Weigh the pros and cons with 1 or 2 friends. And I'll now say, you know what? Okay, this is what we can do. How about we do this or we do this? Or I come back with more questions. I'll say, okay, that thing you were asking me, what's the idea? How do you want to? Before I commit. And my children have learned. And I think this is one thing that parents need to understand. Don't be quick to say your yes and no, because your yes must be your yes and your no must be your no.
Exactly.
That's something that I learned very early in life. I will never promise you something that I cannot guarantee. I'll tell you I'll try. I'll tell you I'll do my best, but never promise unless it is a done deal. And how many things can you guarantee in this life when you're not assured of tomorrow? So that tells you how very careful you need to be with things like, I promise, I will do it. Will is also same as promise. I think so. The first thing would be we parents even reviewing how we communicate to our children in terms of the reassurances, the things that we agree on, so that you don't have to rescind yourself in the first place. I think by even ensuring that, I remember when my daughter was 10, she had an interview in school, and they asked her who are the people that inspire you the most, and she said her mom and dad, and then they asked her, why does your mom inspire you? And I saw her actually pause, so she actually thought about it, and the next thing she says is, my mom is dependable. See, if you could have given me a cape, as in at that moment, I was the proudest mother on earth, because to her, she said my mom was dependable. Maybe other people would have wanted to hear, oh, my mom is nice, caring. But you see, the thing is, I made it my mission for my children to understand that they could count on me. So hearing my 10-year-old at that point, in one word, understand my philosophy towards them, it was the best thing ever for me. And these children, they are young, but they are wise. Because if your mother is dependable, that means you can depend on her no and you can depend on her yes. So therefore, you have to be careful, so that, because they know what they so you see sometimes, like this generation now. Have they done PowerPoint presentation for you before? My children want something. The next day they'll say, Mommy, please, we want something. Can I show you something? Especially my third child. The next thing, full-fledged slide. They will show you, they'll be just pressing the computer. Why? The benefits, the pros, the budget. I say, hey, God have mercy. On top, you want to ask me for this? She said, yes. I thought I'd had to, because I wanted to make sure you understood how important it was to me and this. So that kind now, how will you now say no? Pass it on to you. You can say no to such.
You see why I say they are way ahead of us. How many of us did a PowerPoint presentation for our parents when we needed something, no matter how important that seemed to us? We never even thought of it. And we came into PowerPoint presentation when we were older, probably have finished university or higher education, as the case may be. So there was no PowerPoint presentation for us. We didn't even think. The best we could do is to write it down, write a love letter to our parents, and then see if they would even read it. So you see why I said they are way ahead of us. So in this way, like I said, the role of a parent in this time, just like our Father in heaven is, his role as always to teach, to correct, to instruct, and to remind.
I like that. Teach, correct, instruct, and remind. Love it.
So that we don't go into the trap. We don't fall into the trap. Haven't I told you this before?
That's a classic one for we Nigerian parents.
And I learned this when my children were getting older. In fact, one of my sons told me, he said, Mom, you seem to have forgotten that I'm an adult. So because when you were growing up, you hear things like this, like for the Igbo people, you hear Nwambosea. And that's why growing up, Nwambosea is a child of yesterday. So
that small child of
that phrase.
Nice. That small child of yesterday. That's the real.
Yes, that's small child of yesterday. So I didn't like that phrase when I was growing up. I thought, what does that mean? But now I understand why they were making such a comment. Because they can remember the very day they saw you wrapped in a swaddling cloth, and then all ahead, handing you over to the next visitor that came to the house to visit you as a baby. So they can remember that vividly. And here you are, all grown up. And probably the last time they saw you was your first birthday party.
Yeah.
Probably that's the last time they saw you. And then the next time they see you, you visit in the village, your parents are there, they say, is it not Ife of yesterday? And you're wondering, wondering if you were born yesterday. It was yesterday for them.
Right? Just like even when we see these young ones, I mean, when you see
Yes.
some of them now, they're taller than you. And you remember when they were in diapers and you're like, just yesterday, now. Yeah,
So,
I see.
I don't feel bad anymore. Rather, I smile because I know I have fallen into that trap of saying
Mm,
the little child of yesterday, like you said. So it's something that we should not fall into that trap, because
mm,
we must learn to teach, to correct, to instruct, and to remind. When we do this, it's better. The child
mm,
reasons with you. I was trying
mm,
to give an example of a child jumping on the table or on the chair. You know, these children, especially the toddlers,
mhm,
they do this often. And you see the child just sits down with a swollen face, which means that child has not obeyed all the way,
mhm, mhm,
has not obeyed right away. First of all, he
mm,
hesitated, and the
mm,
child is not happy obeying. So
mm.
what do you? So you
Please
have to
tell us.
learn to that
Mm,
circumstance, and
mm,
your children, your that child has to learn, so that you don't become frustrated with that child. You are not seen as a parent who never sees anything good in your own child, but you're trying to let the child to remind and correct and exhort your own children concerning
mm,
all the
mm,
various rules. And that's why
mm,
I said keep the house rules simple and
mhm.
limited.
Yeah,
Because as an adult,
yeah.
you too may not even remember all the rules again.
Yes, that used to happen to me before. Now I keep it, you know. In fact, when we were able to um kind of consolidate it, my son was in primary 2 and he was selected as one of those that would showcase family values. And so we had to do a short presentation about our family values and all that. And then it occurred to me that this is a good time to also create a mission statement for my family. And so we came up with love of God, love of family, and discipline. And since that time, my son is now in JS3. So in 7 years, everything we've taught our children, everything we've taught our children revolves around love of God, love of family, and discipline. So when they misbehave, we'll say, does this show that family must always come first? Hard work, and it's really helped us because everything that matters to us is embodied in those three. So I really hear you when you say, condense the rules. I wish someone had told me that when I started with my kids. I was I be teacher. In fact, double teacher became my papa and a teacher. And he went into business. My mama and a teacher. Then she went to WAEC. So imagine the mother she went to WAEC. WAEC, the WAEC that everybody fears. My mother was WAEC in my house. Like so what I knew was structure, discipline. Yes, we had fun, especially with my dad, but everything was planned, everything was done in a particular manner, and I'm the firstborn, first grandchild. So you can imagine the weight of that responsibility. And I took all that to raising my children. So it was tough on me, but I imagine it was also tough on the children because the expectations were high. And then, of course, trust Nigerians. When they see your children behaving, this mommy, you are trying, you are doing well. So it validated that, yes, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Until I had a daughter who decided to write to me and tell me why she hated mommy because I scolded her that morning. And that stopped me in my tracks. And immediately, work paused that morning. They went late to school that morning, and I sat down and I said, "What's happening? Why?" And it turns out that it wasn't that she hated, but that was the language she had for it at that moment. And what it was that she really, really, truly didn't like the way I used to talk to her. And that made me, pause and realize that I had to rejig the system. I had to rejig the system. And like you said, I I used to have a lot of no's because I had a lot of rules, as opposed to focusing on what they could do. Because you see, the thing is, for every no, like you said, there's a yes. So that thing you want to tell them no, have you started down? And this is why you need to say, let me think about it. Because I think the main thing is we shouldn't be thinking of saying no. We should be thinking, okay, what's the yes? What can I say that can give them? And you're not negotiating before you think that you're afraid to say no to a child. The world, if there's one thing I've learned about this generation, the world is already telling them too many no's. The world is already confusing them. The world is already full of pressures and things that they can't do, or they are not even sure where they stand. For Christ's sake, this generation, they are not even sure of their identity. When they look in the mirror, some people will say the world will say you can be anything you want them to be. Meanwhile, mirror is telling you you're a girl, you're a boy, and the world is already telling them all sorts of things. So you need to be like their guiding star. And the guiding star cannot be another set of, no, you cannot eat at this time. How about, you're allowed to eat at this time. Anytime after this, there might be dinner, there might not be dinner. There's no guarantee. So you flip the script. How about telling them all the amazing things? My children go to school on the island. I live on the mainland. If you live in Lagos, you understand the kind of commute that they face. But it's because we believe so much in the schools that they go to that we make the sacrifice. And we've spoken. So the first few years, why do we have to go to this school? It's far. It's this. They talk about all the things that are difficult. And I said, look, if there's one thing I will tell you, first of all, what you cannot change, make the best of it. And then I begin to tell them, but in this school, you do this. They're like, well. I said, and you do this, right? Okay, so what are you missing in the other schools? They had more extracurricular. I was like, okay, what do you want? So what did we do in my home? We made it a point of duty to take on the activities that my children love. My son likes to play basketball. My daughters want to go home earlier. I stay back and work a bit later so that my driver can pick up my son and then we go home together. That way he gets his basketball. My daughter likes to play piano. She likes to do all the creative things. She also likes basketball, but her own school basketball is early in the morning. We wake up early, you go to school a little earlier, so they are learning things like balance, tolerance. I could always follow them and say, the school is far, yes, and champion all their no's. But the fact is, life is full of no's. Life is full of no's. We parents should be the yeses that balance the no's outside. But then again, our yeses should not be enablers. Our yeses should not be, oh yeah, take this phone and leave me, Joe. Our yeses should not be, I want to eat pizza every day. Yes. We're talking about the values. But let me go back to my gracious host, our guest rather, because I know she still has a lot more to say. I know. Chinelo, we can be here till 10 p.m. I know.
So another thing I like us to do is to say no to protect the good. Because I said for every no there is a purposeful yes. So now say by limiting the no's, reducing the rules, making the children know the rules. The fewer they are, the easier they remember. And now we need to say no. When we need to say no, it has to be to protect the good. And this is what our Father did. Our Father in heaven did. You shall not kill. You shall not kill? What is it protecting? Life. You shall not commit adultery. What is it protecting? Marriage. You shall not steal. What is it protecting? Somebody's property. And so on. And these no's act like walls around the city, ensuring that the good things within the city can flourish and thrive.
Love it.
Applying this to our own parenting, we regularly ask ourselves, when I say no to my kids, what good thing am I protecting?
Wow. Hey, that's deep. Mommies, Adeoluwa, are you hearing? What good are you protecting? What good are you protecting? Hey,
Yes.
your nose cannot be careless anymore. Glamorous Etsy, your nose cannot be careless nose anymore. You must be protecting something.
Yes.
You must
So
be protecting something.
yes.
Hmm.
So in this way, it makes us think,
Hmm.
because like I said, I had made my mistakes while parenting my children. And when I realized, because the first thing that struck me was when one of my kids told me that adults are liars, they never keep to their promises. And if he has told us why, we cannot agree on everything because no life is guaranteed.
Hmm.
Nothing is guaranteed in this world. Um,
Hmm.
and so many things. And
Hmm.
you find out children are very good they're very good at observing,
Hmm.
and they nurture and keep these things that we say to them that we do not mean.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
This
Very true.
thing
Very, very true.
rewire them in such a way that as they grow up, they may not take you seriously.
Hmm.
So for
Hmm.
when I learned those things, I had to start retracing I brought in my own experience growing up with my parents, with my auntie, into bringing up my children, which was a world apart from my husband. My husband couldn't understand why he must do this at this time, this at this time. He's a free, in fact, to the free spirit. So caging him, he didn't like it. Caging his children, he didn't like it. And there was some sort of crossfire. But I
Hmm.
just realized that I wasn't doing myself any good. Neither was I doing my husband good. Neither was I doing my children good. And if I want that Zamaka in my children to bring out the virtues, to bring out the values, I must
Hmm.
change. And it's in changing that I started researching, I started asking questions, I started meeting parents who were truly intentional. You could
Hmm.
visit a parent and you see a whole world of difference between your own parenting style, and you're wondering how is she doing it, and you begin a conversation. So we need to guiding our children. Often we say no, not because we are guiding some good, but because we are saving ourselves some inconveniences or hassle.
Hmm. Hmm. That's this one. This one entered. This entered because really
Don't worry,
more often than not.
I was there, so don't worry. I
Hmm.
don't think I'm all perfect. I'm just
Of
saying it
course,
as it
we
is,
know. We know.
you know. So that's
Hmm.
it. That's what we should be thinking when we're
Hmm.
saying no. So if it's a difficult one for you, pause and say, "Let me think about it." And
Perfect.
in thinking about it,
Hmm.
think of what you're protecting.
Hmm.
Because for the
That would.
10 no's that God gave us, He was protecting a good.
Hmm. Keep the Sabbath
So
day
what
holy.
are we
Protect your
protecting?
family.
Yes, what are we protecting when we say no? Is it
Hmm.
because we don't want to go through the hassle? You just gave us some points now that you have to stay back a little bit so your son can have a basketball, his basketball.
Hmm.
You have to leave home early so your daughter can play in the morning, and then
Hmm.
probably while brother is playing the basketball, she goes for her piano lessons. So
Hmm.
these are inconveniences, because
Serious
what
inconvenience.
you do was, as soon as you close, you hit the road running, because I know where you live and I know where you work. And I guess your children are on the island where you work,
Hmm.
and you all live on the island.
Hmm.
So, because I know I lived in Surrey, my children went to school in Maryland, their primary school
Hmm.
in Maryland, all six of them. So
Wow.
we
And
have
that's
to
a bit of
leave.
inconvenience.
Yes, we had to leave quite early. And I
Hmm.
was working in I was working in Surrey. So when it's time for school run, I'm back to Maryland.
Hmm.
So it was at first it didn't come easy. And this is where I have to say, when something is inconveniencing, please, I beg you people, do not
Take
mumble,
it.
grumble before the children, because
Hmm.
they'll
Hmm.
now see themselves as a burden to you.
Burden.
And as they grow and understand, they feel bad for you. They think for whatever thing that goes wrong, it's their fault. Meanwhile, it has nothing to do with them. Just because we're inconvenienced and we're just airing our mind, opinion, or feelings to the hearing of them, the children take it as it's their fault.
Yeah, that's a deep one. And the thing is, if we're not careful without those moments, we're now building a cycle, a legacy of children, being burdened by their parents' burdens. So it's amazing that in the process of just talking about simple saying yes and simple saying no, we are dissecting parenting at its very core. It's amazing because, many people have come in here thinking, how would I be able to tell that child no so that they won't be disturbing me again and they will still like me? But as we can see, it's not just even. So the yeses and the no, from this conversation, the yeses and the nos are like the end of the whole thing. They are the symptoms. The real problems, the real foundations are in how we parent our children, how much love, how we communicate, our own relationship with our own parents, and the kind of baggage that we're bringing into our parenting journey, our relationship with God, because again, if you do not have this insight as to how God parents us, how he gives us so many yeses, and when you're saying this, it's taking me to the entire Leviticus. If you read Leviticus, it's filled with rules, But I listened to a Bible app. It's called Bible in the Year. And I remember when I listened to the entire thing last year, and I remember when we got to Leviticus and Father Mike, who's the person that anchors, he said, it might seem like there are a lot of rules, but remember that this was the Israelites who had lived with the Egyptians for 400 years. And so what God was trying to do was more or less draw a roadmap for them so that they could leave their Egyptian ways, their old instinctive habits, and now have a guide. Remember, you said it. And, when you said that the rules must always protect the good, a lot of things clicked in place for me. And it's not that I didn't know it, but it just solidified it. If you go back to Leviticus and you go back, this is a blood sacrifice, this is a wave offering, everything is speaking to things as basic as cleanliness, things as basic as how do you protect, love each other, reconciliation, honoring God. And God had to spell it out so granular in those times because he had 400 years of legacy to remove in one generation. Parents, you don't have 400 years of legacy to remove in one generation. You only have your own self. So, please. And you see, that's why when Jesus now came, by the time Jesus came, they were not running from the Egyptians. They had been Jews for centuries. And he came and just said, see, love God, love your neighbor as yourself. But those two things, they are keeping us in assignment thousands of years later. Because when you want to now break, how do you love God? That's the entire Bible. How do you love your neighbor as yourself? That's the entire Bible. So you might as well have given us 1,000 rules. We just do. So I think for us as parents, I think what I hear again loud and clear is learn to know your children so well, know yourself very well, know how God loves us, such that the rules, the few rules you will give your children will so encapsulate your values that you don't need to even start breaking down the granular ones. Or more. Nigerian parents, we have assignments. This is a PhD course. How many of us want to sign up? How many of us want to sign up? How many of us are we going to have? No, how many of us are going to sign up with you? Because it's like we have to come and learn a parenting PhD course because you are telling the Nigerian parents that they are only going to have few rules in their house and say few no's. In this 21st century. Okay. We will try our best.
if you look at it, it's doable. It's doable. It's just that we haven't been able.
Of
Sorry,
course
I
it's
think someone.
doable. Sorry?
I don't. There's an echo. I don't know where it's coming from. Okay. Okay. I just want to say that it's doable.
Definitely.
We need to, first of all, like you have said, is to rebirth in ourselves.
Mm, mm, mm.
Rebirth in ourselves. And that's why these days people talk about intentional parenting. It's not, and like I said, it's not as if parenting has changed. It's just that we need to understand the generation where we are. And to make it easier for everyone, even if you buy a smartphone today, you need to go through the process. And when you have phone to come help you, how does it work? Time will surely help navigate those areas you couldn't navigate yourself, and then started. And you'll be wondering, has this child ever used this phone before? My answer is no. Because I tell people, they are the natives. They own it, whether they have it or not, they own it. We don't own it. We migrated. And as immigrants, we have to struggle like every other immigrant in another alien in another country.
So now then get this one. Now we the aliens. Okay. Oh.
Yes. So we're the aliens. They're natives, we're the aliens. So we need to do that. So another point, which is my last point, is say yes to something better. And come, but what's your yes to it? Remember, for every no, there's a purposeful yes. So what's your yes to that no you have given to? Because something better must be probably defined. We might say no, not yet, because we're giving our kids the gift of patience.
I get that.
We are delaying a gratification. It is better than indulging in their every desire. So we might give them a task because we are giving them the gift of diligence and faithful work.
So
and this
for
brings
us the parents,
for
us the parents, right? What you're saying is, while we are telling our children no with love, for us the parents, the no must be a no with reason.
Yes.
It must be a no for good.
Yeah.
So it's not because your reason must, and I take it a step further. Your no must tie in with your family values. So if you don't even have family values to start with, you're on a long term.
Yes, if you're correct, because I was thinking when you said you have a family mission statement. What is our mission and mission in our family? Do our kids know this mission? Are we as parents aligned to that mission? If we're aligned to that mission, I'll share a story with you. All of my sons had district university during the COVID and said, you know what, I don't think university is for me in Nigeria. This is a child when he was in his SS1 had indicated interest. He doesn't want to school in Nigeria. He has to go abroad. He tried his best. He got a 25% scholarship, which was not looking so well, and my husband and I cannot afford it, so he couldn't go to the university. So he went to he got admission on merit to a Nigerian university. ASU went on strike, COVID came, and two of his brothers who are in a private university were engaged. Because he was in a federal university, he wasn't engaged. So that bothered him a lot. So at that point, he was discussing with one of his uncles. I'm giving you a background story. And the uncle said, why don't you do a tradesman course so that you can migrate into the country where I am? You don't have to bother your parents with school fees. and you do the course you want to do. And this boy followed his uncle's advice step by step, all the way, with everything, with his heart, only for him to have finished all the steps he needed to do. And the uncle calls the father, not him, to say, you know, I must have misinformed this boy. Oh, yes.
Whoa.
And of course, you know what that means. That means he has wasted all those years. He was taking the straight courses one by one and everything. And this thing happened while I'm in Oka here. He's in Lagos. And I said, come, let's talk about this. He refused. And I had to bring him, I had to cajole him. I had to do everything within my power to bring him back, to come home, so we can talk. And the issues were clear. The route which he wants to take, because his uncle had disappointed him, was going to be an expensive route. And his father looked him in the face and said, I will never steal or borrow to train my children. Why don't we go this route? Because for every decision we are taking at that time, the mission of this family was laid bare for everyone, because he made sure that all his brothers were with him. He came with brothers who were there to come with him. So they came to Oka and we had this robust discussion. By the time we finished and aligned the different options in line with our mission, he could see where we were coming from as parents. And he said, okay, I will take this route, rather than the route he wanted to take, which made no sense, neither to himself nor to anybody. But at that time, he felt that this was the right way. But I knew it wasn't. I wasn't going to tell him it wasn't when he was thousands of miles away from me. I needed to bring him home, calm his father, discuss with his brothers. So when we meet, we are all aligned. And some people, some parents will just say, no, I can't afford it. I'm not going to pay it. You can find a way. And before you know it, this child may drift away.
Yeah.
Before you can say Jack Robinson, this child would have lost this child. So I have to,
because so many people that will tell him he can do what he wants to do if he doesn't be leading.
After all, he's
and then
he will turn 21 this year. So, and for him, his mates in the university are graduating this year. So what's to show for him? And I was saying, you haven't made any mistake. Your path is different from the path of your friends. You need to find yourself, and God is allowing you to go through all this for a purpose. You may not see it now, maybe tomorrow, maybe years to come. And when you look back, you'll be grateful that you went through this path. Please do not compare yourself to anybody but to yourself and with yourself. Bring that back to you. So
the story of Joseph. You know,
thank you.
His brothers wanted to kill him. Eventually, they sold him to a foreign land. Went to Egypt. Was doing well because, you see, we read that chapter. I think was it today or yesterday? And every paragraph
was yesterday,
right? And and God was with him. So he got to Egypt and he was doing well. His master Potiphar, gave him charge of his whole house. Potiphar's wife decided to come, and God was with him. You see, and we can decide to look at all the negative things that happened to Joseph, or we can decide to realize that God needed him to go that route, because if he did not go to that prison, he would not have met Pharaoh's butler and baker. And if he did not interpret their dreams, if the baker did not even forget that Joseph did it, Then because if he had remembered, then when Joseph became the Pharaoh's right-hand man, the baker would say, it's me that put you there. I recommended you. But God said, let's continue. And so Joseph could have said, why me? Only me. Out of my father's 12 children, it's me that they sold. Out of my father's 12 children, I come here, I'm working hard. It's me that Potiphar's wife saw. I went to prison. I helped people. They went. They forgot me. But in the end, he was Pharaoh's number 2 man. If you have ever read Egyptian history, you would understand the amount of power. And remember, he was a young man. He left his father's house at 17. So you would have understood the kind of power. Egypt was one of the richest countries in the entire world as at that time. Gold was nothing to them. Grains, they had pyramids of grain. That's where the northern people in Nigeria, the Arabs, they had pyramids of grains, right? They were by the Nile, they had water, farming. And you're now saying that this Omolomo man, this stranger to their land, was Pharaoh's right hand. When God is with you, nothing can happen. And that's something that we need to now explain to our children. That sometimes your path may not be straight, but as long as God is with you, the destination is secure. That one is sure. And as parents, being the good shepherds that we are to our children, sometimes because we are standing on the mountain, I tell people that if you want to understand the view as a parent, the view as God is standing at Mount Everest. You are standing on like maybe Mount Kilimanjaro, and the child is in the valley. So the child is just there in the valley seeing all the things that they can do. They are there being local champion in the valley. Meanwhile, you are on your own peak seeing lion coming. But there's no way they can see it. They are there in the valley, the mountains, the sides of the mountains are blocking their view. The education, their friends, the things distracting them. But you are the good shepherd. If you shout at them, they will rebel, and guess what? The lion will still chop them. So your question is, how will I get this sheep that does not want to hear me? How will I guide it away from that valley, and keep moving, and let's keep moving. And then, of course, because there's somebody at the higher peak that can see what you cannot see, we seek his own vision, his own views. Because God is there at the highest peak, seeing what you cannot see, seeing what the child cannot see, and seeing everything else around the entire terrain, and can probably see the valley that has the beautiful, food and grass and everything that your child is heading towards that you cannot see. Which is why we must always parent with God the Father. If we are not sure, if we are conflicted about our responses, when we say, let me think about it, you go and sit down and think about it with God. So, yeah, God, how far? What do you think? Give me a sign. Let me know. Should I say yes? And that leads me to one thing. Something you mentioned, how they are natives and we are the ones that are, they're native to this world we live in. The world we were raised in doesn't exist anymore. The values still exist, but the world in which you would apply those values is a different world, which means we need to change the way we apply them. And then the problem now is that we're not native to this world. So you have to be open-minded, because that thing your child is making a case for, are you saying no because that's the way it was done in your time? Or are you saying no because there's a good you are trying to protect? Are you saying no because that's what you are comfortable with, what you are used to? Or you are saying no because you have really weighed the pros and cons, and that is what is in the child's best interest? I find that most times parents, we have to get out of our children's way, because we are parenting them. We want to create mini replicas of ourselves, and especially for those of us that somehow God was just good to us, we were somehow good children. Say, after all, it worked for me, so it must work for them. But the problem is the world in which it works for you is not the world they are living in today. It's not the world you're living in today. So we have to, I think we need to be open-minded. I think we need to be open-minded. So, Chinelo, we have about 17 minutes to go because I don't want to keep everybody here endlessly. So leave us with your pearls of wisdom. Please, if you have any questions, feel free to type it in the chat. Feel free to, if you want to come and join us for 1-2 minutes on the live request, and let's spread the word about this message. Godly parenting is a point for parents, by parents, and it's of parents. As you can see, Chinelo has 6. I have 4. We don't claim to know it all, but we know the ones that have worked for us and we want to share. And we know that one thing that is consistent with us parents that it has worked for is that we rely on God. And the times when it's working is because we are relying on God. Once you take your eyes off God, you will be relying on yourself, and more often than not, you get into trouble with your kids. So, Chinelo.
Yeah, I just want to say, but in all these cases, we're seeking to imitate God's fatherhood and to follow in the Father's ways. As parents, real no's are unavoidable. True. And they are good, like the walls around the city. Okay. But we must remember that as parents, the main thing we are offering is a city of yes, a home of yes, with joy and life and gratitude to the abundance of all things that flow from us, from God of yes. Because God has yeses. And at that point, I'm going to tell parents there are 3 things for me. For us to first of all slow down. We're in a very busy highway. A highway of life that is endless. So we need to slow down. We need to show gratitude. And finally, we need to take responsibility.
Gratitude, when doing responsibility, slow down.
Yes. It's not easy, I must tell you. It's not easy. But if we start early to rebirth ourselves, because there's something my mother told me while I was growing up. My mother said the parents will train. Train. You yourself will train yourself.
As why is one way.
Yes.
So when they are finished training you, you will train yourself.
Exactly. So that's the rebirth, I mean, because you have gathered everything from your parents' parenting, from them seeing them love God as much as they can, or they can, or they have. You just have to put these things together and then say, this is a path that I want. And us being women and eventually getting married, you get into your husband's home, there's a rebirth. There's a rebirth. You can't come with everything you know in your family because he's coming with everything he knows in the family. You both of you will have to meet.
We must marry them.
Exactly.
True. So mommy that knows best, please make small room for daddy that does not know too much like this, Sha. And marry us together. Because I say mommy that knows best, because it's we women that our own is very plenty. The small that we know, we are the authority. We are the authority. I must know it. My husband does not understand. He can't understand. He's out there working. He doesn't see what I'm seeing at home. Yes. But inside the one he doesn't understand, there's value somewhere. I'm learning that even, in my marriage. I remember in the early years, I was like I said, parents of 2 teachers, discipline, structure. My husband is somebody who doesn't like boundaries. I think my husband and yours should meet. They like to be free. In the end, it will work out right, happy. So why are you stressing? Enjoy this life, And so, yes, for me too, it was tough. It was a really tough thing. You just wake up in the morning, you have planned the day, and the next thing by 8 o'clock in the morning, the day have just entered into a wire that you're not even understanding. And along with you, plus the children. But these days, I'm learning to see the wisdom in some of his actions. And that's why we say be objective. Be objective when it comes to raising your children. Be objective when it comes to co-parenting with your husband. Again, this is not to say that men are not guilty of this, but I find that it's we women that, we hold on to our own style. It might not be that what you are doing is bad, but it might be that the style is not fit for purpose. Because again, we have married two people, so some styles must give way to the other styles. Some must merge, and then two of you have created a set of children that are a combination of both of you.
Exactly.
So it is natural that is a combination of both of you that will parent them most effectively. You see how God works? Carries the biology, he blends us together inside blending machine and produce children that are a combination of us. So that is by force, you must combine to parent them. Which is why your husband might understand one side of your child, you understand the other nature. Or might understand this one a bit more, you will understand the other one a bit more. It's amazing, really. It's amazing.
Thank you, Free, for inviting me. I just want to read the three things I had mentioned: limiting your no's, say no to protect a good, and finally, say yes to something better. And with this, we would create children who would also create better children for a better society, because we will not have drug addicts. Because as little as indulging your children with pizzas whenever they say I want pizza, you say yes. Once they get to know that for everything they need to get, it becomes a problem. So for every no we say, there's a purposeful yes. And it has to be something better than the no you have said to them. Thank you very much.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I love it. Your yes must, I'm sorry, I'm just typing the last one. Your yes must be a better
Lead
yes, right?
something better.
Yes, must lead to something better, right? Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Please, guys, if you gained anything from today's session, just send us an emoji. Just tell us how you feel. Was it fire? Did you love it? Just send us an emoji. I know our turnout today was not much. Chinelo has anticipated. I know that a lot of people are having network challenges, but I didn't want to be deterred truly, because I want us, this is going to go straight on the page. People will catch the replay. And I would want them to engage even whenever it is they catch the replay. And that's why we switched to Instagram Live. We used to do this every 2 weeks, every other week in the WhatsApp community. If you want to join the WhatsApp community, the link is at the top of this page. We used to do this in the WhatsApp community, but this year, I had spoken to some of my friends, some close members of the community, and we agreed that it was necessary to now take it outside the community so that more parents can benefit. I mean, if anyone stumbles on our page at any point in time, they will see these videos and they will hopefully learn one thing or the other, and it might be in their point of need, and that's the point of Godly Parenting Summit. It's a community of parents, for parents, by parents, so that we can just keep supporting each other. Because if there's one thing I've learned, this 21st century has really robbed us of communal parenting. And that's what this community is trying to bring back. Let's leverage each other's wins and knowledge and skills, and be able to all be better parents in our own way. Thank you so much, Chinelo, for spending the evening with us. Thank you for blessing us with your wealth of wisdom. I really, truly loved how you would give us a whole, PhD on parenting, and the next thing you would just bring it back to the Bible, and you would just be like, hey, over. I loved it. I mean, your nose are like the like the walls that protect the yes. That
The
was
sitting.
it. It was a beautiful picture in my mind because I was just seeing the nose like fences, and I was seeing the yes in full bloom with flowers and abundance, and that's what we should be doing with our children, right? So if you are putting a no, make sure that there's somewhere in your value system or your family system that you are trying to protect. And that thing you're trying to protect is a yes that is full of abundance and is good. Thank you so much, Chinelo. I really do appreciate everyone who stayed with us. I want to say special thank you to all those who stayed with us all through. Thank you. God bless you. For those who are just seeing this, if whenever you catch it, please leave your comments in the post. And please don't forget to follow us on Godly Parenting Summit. If you are following our page, you will know that come next month, we are starting our amazing annual Godly Parenting Summit. It will start on the 27th. It will be every Saturday by 4 p.m. And if you just hang on to this page, by next week, you're going to see all the details and the amazing lineup of speakers. You are not ready. You are not ready. We are ready for you, but you are not ready for us. All I'll tell you is keep your your Saturdays from April 27th till June 1st free by 4 p.m. Yes, we switched from Sundays to Saturday because if there's one thing I want to be intentional about is keeping the Sabbath day holy so that I can be with my God and with my family as much as possible. I know why you're laughing. Yes. So there's an ongoing debate in one of our groups as to why people will go to the market on Sabbath day. Well, I choose not to comment on that, but I will say this. As much as we can, and I think it's all about the spirit of the law, as much as we can, keep your Sundays, to groom your families intentionally, bond with them, and do that in Christ. So I mean, it doesn't get better. And I've said it was difficult for me, but I kept getting the prompting. And one day I just woke up, I looked at my calendar, and I removed everything Sunday. And since that day, I've not booked anything for Sunday. And so I just felt if I'm doing this for myself as a person, as an individual, why would I now let other parents come up on a Sunday? Yes, to learn, to do something good, but I'm taking them away from their families. And so Godly Parenting Summit is moving to Saturdays by 4 p.m. so that we can meet as many time zones as possible. The details will be coming up soon, so please turn on your notifications so that you get all the notifications and you don't miss any of our lives. It's been a pleasure. My name is Ify Okafor. I'm the convener of Godly Parenting Summit. I'm a wholeness and digital parenting coach, and by day I am an IT manager in one of the national databases. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Chinelo. I can't wait to do more stuff with Ozuzu Amaka. I know we are going to do stuff together.
Yeah.
And my regards to your lovely, lovely children.
Same and same here. Bye, everybody. I hope you got something from these. And thank you for being so resilient, persistent, consistent in doing this every other week. Kudos to you, and I continue to pray that it will get better. Bye.
Amen. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.